Okay. Jane would like to know. Jane's question is: in the last few years, there has been a controversy around the possible sale of part of Fairmount Park to the Fox Chase Cancer Center. How do you feel about the sale of smaller parts of the park?
I think that, my position has always been I've never actually been in. I mean, that's why you have a Fairmount Park Commission that evaluates the pro and con of the aspect of if that's something that should be done. I happen to be aware of that particular project. I'm aware of that, and I have, heard both sides of it. I think that they talked about the exchange of some land, if I'm not mistaken, for the purpose of if one piece of land was going to Fairmount, I mean to the Fox Chase, I think they talked about giving some other land up. Now, again, I don't know all the particulars on it. I generally know that that seems reasonable. I don't know the particulars of it. But I think it really has a lot to do with the commission that is overseeing the land, as well as what's that mean to long-term future of the park. So I think that at times there may be, discussions in that particular direction, but I think I would look for the recommendation from the park to give me their thoughts and ideas about anything of that nature.
Okay. We have another question from Platt, who would like to know: what can you do as mayor to get more control of SEPTO's board for the city?
Well, Brett, let me say this here. I don't think it's a question of control of the board personally. I think we have to change the taxing structure, get predictable funding. I think we have to do some things to modernize our transit system. The city has, I think the city has three appointments. The mayor has two appointments, and the city council has one. That's three. What the mayor has never done is the way the SEPTA board is broken up to is the governor has an appointment, the legislature has appointments, and you obviously when the Democrats in charge, the Democrats have a heavier influence. When the Republicans in charge, the Republicans have a heavy influence. But it's not the question of governance. Governance is not the issue. The issue is you need predictable funding, you need operating funding, you need capital investment, and you need a strategy around it. Now, I know some people make the argument of that, the city pays, I think, something like 85% for the kind of the ridership in the suburbs don't pay this. I mean, I just think that's a counterproductive argument. You need this region to work together. And the city shouldn't be pitted against the suburbs, and the suburbs shouldn't be pitted against the city. The region needs to work together in conjunction with Harrisburg. In my view, we have to constantly stop this kind of pitting one against the other. I always have a saying that although we have come over here on different boats, we're now in the same boat. And that boat is Philadelphia. And we have to work with the suburbs, and the suburbs has to work with us, and then we have to work with Harrisburg.
Ted P. asks: would you replace the old-fashioned light bulbs in city council chambers and the rest of City Hall as your first green act?
Now, remember I said to you earlier, there's a combination of preservation, and then there's a combination. Now, I guess I come from a little the newer age. I could say yes to you, but there also is preservation. I could tell you a little bit about that from Harrisburg in terms of how people like to preserve a lot of a historical value. Now, obviously that may not be the most energy efficient way. I want to be very clear, that may not be the most energy efficient, but there may be some people out there who feel very strongly about maintaining the historical element of City Hall. So I don't want to just quickly say that to you. I don't have a quick answer to that. But do I think we need to change some of our light bulbs in certain buildings or rec centers? The answer is yes.
I have a question about the schools. You mentioned in your initiative that you'd like to make the schools in the other city buildings more green, and I was just wondering. I mean, it seems like some of the schools barely. I mean, I don't want to say barely are standing, but there's a lot of schools that are in kind of a bigger disarray. So how would you balance the need to just get schools kind of up to just a regular state and the need to make them more green?
One of the things I was most impressed with was Paul Vallis from the school reform. That one of the things he came in with was a plan on upgrading, modernization of our buildings, and I applaud him for doing that because there was a report done not too long ago by a gentleman by the name of Harry Perks, who used to be the streets commissioner. And Harry, they did a report that said basically that the average school building was like 65 years old. And he made some recommendations, and Paul Vallis came in a good job to implement it. So I do agree that we have to strike a balance between what you're saying in terms of making sure we make sure the soundness is there of the building, but we also prepare from an energy and environmental standpoint. If we look at the new designs, I mean, we just look at the school of the future out there in the park, which is the Microsoft school. I think that they're probably in the design of that school was the right kind of considerations put in between environmental and energy, and a school that is what I call very student friendly. Matter of fact, they got this little smart card that you go in there, and when you get the little smart card, you go in there and you go in the cafeteria. I mean, you order anything off your smart card, and it even tells you the amount of calorie intake that you have. So that's an example. But again, I think this is striking a balance in terms of our policy implementation that we move forward.